Welcome in for another episode of the Vitamin C's podcast, proud part of the CLNS Media Network. I am your host, Tim Sheils, and we're just going to be breaking down into things. I'm joined by my co-host and partner in crime, Wayne Breezie Brown. Lots to unpack. A day that I thought personally probably was never going to happen, or at least certainly not like this. So before we crack into it, Wayne, how are we feeling today? Yeah.
It's kind of like I'm torn between two, even though it's one player. But when we break down the Marcus Smart situation, like it sucks, but then it makes sense at the same time. If you can look into the future of the Boston Celtics, and I think the only reason why it makes sense in my head, even though it does suck and it does hurt, because this is our Marcus Smart was the heart and soul of the Boston Celtics, and for 9 seasons he gave his heart and soul to the Boston Celtics and to the fans. So it's a torn situation for me. It sucks, but my focal point is on the Jays. And I think because that's my focal point, I'm able to take the emotion out of it while we do this show and figure out how to enable them and to compliment them and maybe Smart. Obviously the money situation, we'll get into that, but maybe Smart was no longer complimenting them or enabling them to boost them up to get to higher levels. Mm-hmm. It's so many things. Plus, there's so many other factors that you can factor in, and Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard. There's so many factors at the guard position. And I know on our last episode, we were talking about possibly adding another guard and things like this, and now we're losing a guard, which we thought we were going to lose a guard anyway.
Yeah, true.
But this one it's tough because this is Marcus Smart we're talking about. It's not just a player we acquired and via trade. This is a homegrown talent who signed his extension here with Boston, who has $59 million. He had $59 million left on his deal, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I got those numbers right. But at the end of the day, we have to look forward into enabling the Jays. And I know people are like, well, what do you mean? We didn't re-sign Jaylen Brown yet. Trust me, it's getting done. Like this lets me know furthermore that it's getting done. It just has to get done.
Yeah.
When it's time.
So to recap for everyone who was asleep when it happened, essentially over the course of 7 hours, we went from Kristaps Porzingis is getting traded to the Boston Celtics, with the Washington Wizards getting involved, sending him to Boston, and having the Los Angeles Clippers being involved as the third team to take on Malcolm Brogdon. It was supposed to be Marcus Morris and Amir Coffey, and I think a first rounder going from the Clippers to the Wizards. And basically what ended up happening is over the course of those 7 hours, going into about 10:30, 10:15, 10:30, I think, was around the ballpark when we got a tweet from Woj saying that the deal fell apart. Part of it was concern over Malcolm Brogdon. His injury history, that forearm. I don't know how talks got so far along that they got derailed like that, because I feel like the Clippers that was a little bit embarrassing on their part. I don't think it should have gotten that far in terms of trade talks. I think maybe the Clippers tried to say, well, we're worried about this and we're trying to get more assets. And the Celtics said, screw this, we don't have time to mess around with this. Because Porzingis had an opt-in deadline at midnight. So there was a lot of pressure to get this done, both for Washington, because you don't want this guy to just walk in free agency. You want to get something of value for him. And the Celtics, in terms of you're trying to make a move here, clearly, before draft night. So trade goes through right around midnight. Officially, breaking, Celtics are trading for Kristaps Porzingis. And I was, ready to celebrate. I had, let's go, Brad tweets, ready to go. And I fired off one, and it was the Steph Curry half-court shot from OKC, and I'm like, Brad Stevens, right now. And then I get another alert. All of my group chats on Twitter are like, no. And I'm like, what just happened? And I audibly, shouted. It was, the middle of the night. My cats, ran out of the room. They were scared because I can't believe it, getting that alert that Smart got traded to the Grizzlies. They're obviously going to need some culture there. So in terms of a Grizzlies sense, it's good. The Celtics ended up getting 2 first rounders back. One is the 2023 pick, which I think is number 25 overall in the draft. So the Celtics have a first round pick. They sent the second rounder to the Grizzlies to Washington. Washington's going to be getting Tyus Jones, as well as Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala, with Marcus Smart ending up with the Grizz. But the Celtics also got a future first rounder that's going to be coming from Golden State. That one's interesting because it's top 4 protected next year, then top 1 protected the year after that, and they completely unprotected. So we really, really want the Golden State Warriors to just have a full-on collapse this year and land in the lottery. But that pick has got some immense value in terms of looking at the future, especially for Golden State. Now, from a basketball standpoint, I'm interested to see how this, is going to preface other moves, because it feels like there's going to be more stuff coming. Brian Robb of Mass Live was saying the same exact thing. More stuff will be coming. That's the important thing. They still got to figure out what's going to happen with Brogdon now. You got Brian Windhorst saying that the injury is more severe than they've been led to believe. So I don't know how true that is, or how much of that is damage control from the Clippers trying to be like, well, it's really bad, actually, guys. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens with that, but I don't think you can hold on to Malcolm Brogdon after almost sending him to the Clippers. I just don't know how that situation's working out. But they've got other moves now to figure out. They got to figure out if they're going to sign and trade Grant away. They're going to figure out if they're actually going to use this first rounder this year. There's some pieces to really figure out now, but they are officially stocked to the gills again with first rounders after getting one this year and a future one next year. They've got a pick we got first round pick in the next 9 seasons, I think. So, but from a just an emotional standpoint, this sucks. I think the Celtics were in a hard spot here because of the cap. This upcoming CBA is just going to screw teams like this who have players that they want to keep. And they really were worried about that second apron, apparently. But it still sucks. It definitely is something I didn't see coming. I don't know about you. It just didn't. I think a move was coming, but I didn't think it was going to be this move in the way that it was done. I assume it wasn't easy. I'm sure that they talked to both Jason and probably Jalen about this before they went ahead and took this kind of step. But I tend to agree with you, Wayne. I think this is a way that they kind of really usher in the Jays era. Marcus Smart being the longest tenured Celtic. At a certain point in time, you needed to have a look at those core 3 guys and decide, because they've been running this same core back. How many times can you keep doing that and not getting what you need and not winning a championship? It sucks, but that's the reality of this business.
That's the reality, Tim. I think sucks. That's why I said I'm torn, because emotionally it does suck. I mean, if we want, we can do a small, quick exercise, pros and cons. You're gonna lose a leader. You're losing a freaking leader. What was Marcus Smart? He was that savvy veteran. He was that guy to get the team back on track if they started going off track or whatnot. And you're losing that. You're losing that. You're also losing a player that was just willing to utilize his whole self into making a play, whether it's taking a charge, playing on-ball defense, taking on the biggest defenders, the biggest superstar on the court. You're losing that. You're losing that. And so those are some of the cons. Those are some of the things that you're going to miss from Marcus Smart. But when you look at it from a basketball perspective, I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this, but there are different generations out there. Marcus Smart is one of them last of them old school mentality basketball heads. He came in that Rondo era and kind of learned under him. And, Rondo was an old head basketball player that was under K. That's pretty much all gone now. There's a different generation of players. And I'm not saying Marcus Smart doesn't fit, but I think what I'm trying to say is that, the Celtics with new coach, new vision, new this, and players like Tatum and Brown who are substantially younger and just have a different mentality because they're in a different generation. We talked about our players just being from, what are we, Generation Z now? Whatever that means, they just different. Like as a human being, I think Smart no longer was fitting. There could have been issues where he caused ripples in the locker room. Maybe he didn't get along with Jaylen Brown. Maybe those two generations just didn't mix. Maybe there were, I don't know. I don't really know, but you have to think about all of those things. And then the money, right? Because at the end of the day, if you look at Malcolm Brogdon, he wasn't a candidate for the Grizzlies. They were trying to get him to the Clippers, and this report comes out saying that he was probably more injured, which you said you don't really believe in. We know he's going to hopefully opt in and have that surgery or whatnot. But at the end of the day, the money didn't work out. Now, me personally, I don't think they should move on from Malcolm Brogdon. I also don't understand. I'm putting this disclaimer out there. I don't clearly comprehend how money works in basketball. But if they can make it work and keep him, you keep Brogdon, you let him heal. And this is good news for a guy like Peyton Pritchard, because I think with Smart being gone, I think White fills the role just as well. If I asked you who was a better player last year, you're going to say Marcus Smart or Derek White?
It's Derek White. Derek White clears. I get it, for sure.
And you have and does he play well with the Jays? Because
he does. He makes them better.
You got to look at it like that. Now, does he have flaws? Every single player in the NBA has a flaw, from the super duper stars to the rookie patooties. They have flaws. That's why they're there. They're there to find ways to get better, and it takes time to develop. But all I'm saying is 9 seasons, no chips. And like you said, with this particular unit, with the Jays, we just couldn't find a way to get over the hump. You bring in a player like Porzingis. I know we're focusing on Marcus Smart, but let's talk about what we got. You got Porzingis. And you could talk about his health. You can talk about whatever you want. What I do know is he can shoot over anybody in the NBA. He can score really deep threes. He's pretty good in backing down the ball defenders. He has great freaking handle. Only thing you're going to have limitations is on-ball defense. But I guarantee you he will be utilized just like they utilized Rob Williams. He will be a weak side help defender, and it is going to be what it's going to be, and you get what you get. Keep him healthy. Manage him just the same way you manage Rob Williams. The Celtics will have a bouncing, big, rim-protecting, blocking shot guy that can finish around the rim, with a stretch big that can block shots as well, that can just shoot threes from anywhere in the paint. Didn't he score 41 against us? I don't know. Maybe I'm making stuff up. All I know is this guy can score. He also can make plays. And from a big making plays, you watched how I'm not saying he's on the level of Jokic, but when your bigs are making plays, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah. So I like the Porzingis. I know I mentioned him by a mistake yesterday. On our last episode.
Yeah, and to be fair, before I go any further with that, that episode never got released.
Okay.
So we recorded an episode, everyone, and I got so busy in the morning that I didn't get it posted. And I was trying to get it posted before I went to go work one of my side gigs. And then I look at the tweets and it's like, all right, well, everything that we talked about yesterday is completely out the window. I guess we'll scrap that and record. And then at midnight, it gets even wackier with this Smart move. But I think Porzingis is a good addition. I want to see what they do in terms of an extension. He is opting in. So he's opting into a player option for $36 million.
$36 million. So
yeah,
that's this year?
Yep, it's just for this upcoming season, and then after that, he would be a free agent. So it's either he's going to come off the book.
Would have to pay him $36 million. I'm just trying to understand it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. So it'll be $36 million this year because it's a player option.
And then he'll be a free agent next year.
Yeah, and they can either send.
What the Celtics are going to try to do, hopefully, is extend that so they don't pay him $36 million this year.
No. So
okay.
He's getting, regardless of whatever happens with the Celtics, he's getting $36 million. The only way that would change would be a sign and trade, but the Celtics won't do that because that would hard cap them. With an opt-in and trade, which is why they had that deadline before midnight last night to get that done. was because that option, once that wrapped up, he would enter a free agency this season. So he's getting $36 million for this upcoming season. And as soon as July hits, the Celtics can start having extension talks with Kristaps Porzingis. I don't know.
July 1st, right?
Yeah. As soon as July hits, because at that point in time, they can extend him. And as soon as they sign him to an extension, he's not going to be able to be moved for X amount of months. I want to say it's 6 months. So way past the trade deadline. So it's a whole possibility that the Celtics do sign him to an extension. I wouldn't hate that as long as the cap hit's not crazy. And to be honest, I don't know what he's going to get paid because the injuries factor into it. He is on like a max contract right now, obviously at $36 million, and in the final season of that. But I do want to see what the Celtics could potentially do if they do keep him. This might be a 1-year rental. I'd like to think that it isn't. I know that they're trying to position themselves financially, but look, if you can get him on an extension for like maybe 2 or 3 seasons and it's at like anywhere between like 14 to 18 million,
That's a win.
I think it's a really good deal. I don't know how likely that is, but I think that they probably had some kind of, backdoor agreement to discuss stuff and be like, whoa, are you interested
for the
in
future?
Extension?
Good point.
Yeah,
good
because
point.
I think this is a good environment for him. Look, he played 67 games last season.
That's the most in his career, if I'm not mistaken.
Possibly. Maybe look that up really quick while I keep riffing. So he's dealt with injuries though, and so he's had a couple seasons. Specifically, New York obviously tore his ACL. We spoke about that briefly before we hopped on, and he also had a couple seasons. I want to say when he was in Dallas, where he was limited or hampered by injuries. So, but in terms of statistics, it was a career best year for him last year. Very strong, damn near 40% from 3, rebounding well. And while Washington was a dumpster fire, he was one of the lone bright spots. So,
okay. So according to StatMuse, his rookie season with the Knicks was 72, and then the next year was 66, and then this past season was 60. What did you say? They have it
67.
They have it at 65, but this could be off.
That's probably right. No, that's probably right.
So, I mean, so third. Like, but here's the thing: he was the healthiest he's been in the past few seasons, and he played in the most games since he started getting injured. So, if that makes any sense, like this is good. That was close to what he did in New York, and so you come to Boston, not to cut you off, where they kind of do well at managing players with injuries.
They've gotten a lot better at it.
They've gotten a lot better, bro. I mean, look,
got a new medical staff.
They found a way to get Malcolm Brogdon, who ain't played in like 80 games his whole career. I'm just playing, but they found a way to make Malcolm Brogdon healthy enough to be a dominant force with this team, find a way to win that 6-man award, and possibly. I mean, I know he's injured now, but I just don't think you want to move on from that because that's who you want running that second unit. He's the elite scorer on the floor at that time. He can utilize his 3 when his forearm is intact. He can get to the paint. I mean, that forearm cost him to miss layups, bro.
It cost the Celtics multiple things. It cost them a chance at an NBA championship.
Okay, more importantly, you're right.
And it cost them Marcus Smart because of this whole cap situation and this trade that fell through with the Clippers because of his injury. So
are you saying that keeping Brogdon is a reminder
It might be to some people. For me,
I get where you're going with this. And listen, if you are that person, we're here for you. We're here for you.
We understand. We are not invalidating your feelings. I totally get it.
Exactly.
I get it.
Because listen, Marcus Smart, again, heart and soul. There's no other words to describe Marcus Smart. You can say leader, you can say other. He was always the heart and soul of this team. That was his role from like day one. He was never an elite scorer. He was never an elite playmaker. He became a better playmaker.
Playmaker, sure.
Thank you. But he remained, even injuries and all, the heart and soul. Like, and gosh, man, what do you do when you lose your heart and soul? Like, this is tough.
I think for me, I think it's a matter of like remaking the culture, right? So I think I think right now they're in the middle of a culture shift. I don't know. We're never going to get a full image. We're never going to get a full image of what happened behind closed doors. Obviously, there was last year, not this past season, but the season before with Ime Udoka, where Marcus Smart called out the Jays in their playmaking. There was some friction reported about that. There's been issues before in the locker room where chairs have been thrown. So I don't know if there was any kind of rift there, but it's going to be a significant change in terms of culture because your longest tenured player was arguably your loudest and most vocal leader. Now you need the Jays to truly step up into that vacuum, especially Jason Tatum. So I don't know if this is going to empower him to do more. I'm sure this is also going to empower some other guys in the roster, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, to step up into that leadership role. And I think they're capable of doing that. It's just, this is a departure of stuff that you've known for so long. And now you're going into very much uncharted waters. And there's still plenty of changes that could happen. It's going to be... It's going to be a lot to swallow. You've got a lot of people who are surprised, from Celtics fans. You've got mostly like emotionally destroyed. Some people are like, this is a great deal. Some people are like, this is terrible. I'm going to go find the nearest bridge. And like, there's really like no in between. And I feel like right there, like there's a couple people who are in the middle where it's like, I understand it from a basketball standpoint, but like, damn it, this is going to hurt for a while. And I think I'm just in disbelief. Like, I'm still wrapping my mind around it, and I'm sure eventually it's going to hit me fully. But at a certain point, you had to make some hard decisions, and you can't say like every offseason, like someone's like, we should make some big moves. We got to make some big moves. This is a big move. You moved a starter.
It's a huge move.
It's massive.
They didn't just move a starter. They moved a guy that they put into the point guard role. Remember when we were going through the point guard situation and we were like, well, who's going to play point? We were like, well, Marcus Smart can do it. And then we were like, some people were like, nah, he's better coming off the bench. He's better doing this. And then he moved into the role. And I'm going to say this. Marcus Smart played it well. But at the end of the day, like, what did he do to enable the Jays? And that is what you gotta find a way, as a Celtic fan, to put your focus on, because at the end of the day, they're not in their prime, and so they like Brown may just be teetering and entering the prime. I think Tatum has a year to go before he even starts getting into his prime. This is gonna help them because now here's my scenario, and you cannot like it, and it's okay, but this is how it is. You learning how to ride a bike, you use training wheels, correct? I think Marcus Smart was the training wheels to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown at some point no longer want training wheels. I think they're like, yo, we don't need them anymore. We're ready to move. We can do this. We can ride the bike. It's a
safety net, right?
It's a safety net. And I like how you brought that in there. And I think by moving on from Marcus Smart, you're doing two things. I know this is a financial thing, but I'm really trying to look at it from a basketball perspective. And I think it's more like, hey, the safety net is gone. Tatum, it's time for you to take that leadership role. Jaylen Brown, it's time for you to move into a leadership role. It's time. I don't think you need it from Derek White. I don't think you need it from any of the other players. I think it's time to put the trust and faith into the pillars, those two guys. Those are your pillars. And now how are you going to build this Coliseum? Well, you have all these other players that can serve their role and do their job correctly. This team is going to be built to last for years to come, even with the way they're stashing these first round picks, which I don't think they need any for the next couple of seasons. So that's why I don't think it's over yet. I think tonight, the draft night, I think there's going to be some stuff going down. Like they're not done building this building for the Boston Celtics.
All right. So I sent you a couple things while we were on. So first things first, I think, the Celtics are definitely not done yet. I think there's probably going to be something juicy coming down the pipe. We shall see. I think there is a big move. There's still some power here. And if you're bringing in Kristaps Porzingis, he's probably going to be starting. I think that's a safe bet. And you could platoon him with Al most likely, or Rob. But I think if you're going to do Rob is probably going to be, your roamer. So you probably move Porzingis more to the 5, and you're probably looking more at like drop defense. I don't know if that's what they do. I think you probably have Al Horford at the 5 handling the bigger guys, and you've got Porzingis roaming like Rob does, where you've got 2 guys who can space the floor and shoot the 3. So like that'll help. But I think looking at it moving forward, they're going to figure out the guard position. They're probably going to add forward. There's a possibility Grant gets moved. So one of the things I sent you is, this is from the Get Up. Brian Windhorst, Wendy's cooking again. Damian Lillard does not want to play in a youth movement.
No.
Teams are preparing to send offers to Portland for Damian Lillard tonight. And if they're not doing that, then I'm guessing that they're probably going to be moving on from the number 3 pick to get some assets back.
Correct.
So my question is who's getting moved and for what? And so that's something to monitor. I don't know if...
Would you consider Boston being a youth movement? Because I don't.
I don't think so, only because I think that they can't go fully into it. The only thing that I thought of that was like, this is like my crazy like pipe dream thing that I would be like, yeah, they should do this. This would be bonkers. Would be like trading other assets. So like, like Brogdon, Grant, maybe Pritchard, and probably like 2 first rounders to Portland for the 3rd overall pick, and then using that to get Scoot Henderson if he's there. And then in free agency, assuming he gets bought out, which I would say is fair, you go out and you sign Chris Paul. That is like my crazy, like I had this like weird moment of like...
that's a lot of stuff going on,
so
bro.
much. There's so much, and I have no idea.
But it's dope. It's so dope.
Just like it's crazy. I don't think it will happen. I think it's far more likely the Celtics would move on from Jaylen Brown via trade than I think that stuff would happen. But that's just me like riffing, because I don't know if Portland is going to finally pull the trigger. Whether Dame says, I ain't running from the grind, like I'm going to stay here the rest of my career, and like we'll be middling and like garbage and it'll be fine. Or if they're just going to say screw it and finally, hit the ejector seat and send him out for the biggest offer that you possibly can. I don't know. I mean, for Portland, like I feel like you should go into the youth movement, but I've also thought that Portland should do that for like the past 4 years. So who knows? Like it really is just completely up in the air. I think I feel better about the Celtics moving forward and finding some other deal out there for whatever or whoever. But I just, it's just another wrinkle. I just think that it's very odd that after that big move last night, all of a sudden Dame Lillard is now going to be available. Or at least like Portland is kind of having their hand forced, where it's like, we either have to make moves to build around Dame right now, or we have to ship him out because he's going to want out if we don't make any moves, which just feels like a vicious cycle for them. I feel like that's crazy. They continue to do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's just their MO. And I think he might be one of the guys that are moved on tonight. Like I can see Lillard on his way to a team to contend. Like, and that's what he needs. I mean, he's at that point in his career. He's that good of a player. I can see him possibly going to LA. Like I can see things happening that are just weird. But if your pipe dream happens, dude, I will have to buy you. I promise you're getting something special from me, bro. Because that would be crazy dope. Like, because look, at the end of the day, like, what can enable the Jays better than Chris Paul?
Yeah, and I mean, granted, I know that he's not the best teammate. He's one of the most creative. He's one of the most creative passers. One of the most. He's one of the greatest point guards of all time. Okay,
he's a Hall of Famer, bro.
He's gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Okay, so that's all you had to say.
He's like a top 3 guard all time. Like, I'm sorry,
that's all you had to say. I don't care.
Debate a wall.
If he's
one of the
40,
greatest point guards ever.
If you bring in Chris Paul,
if he's coming off the bench, or he's like giving you 20 to 25 minutes consistently in a role that was similar to like what you got from Brogdon, or you do like a platoon like that, yeah, exactly. It's gross, and I mean, I just don't know what more the Celtics are gonna do. Like I'm hoping Jalen's good. Sorry, as I
That's okay.
I'm hoping that Jalen is going to be good and that they keep him and like that'll be that. But I don't know, man. There's so many moving parts right now. This is all so crazy. And there feels like there's a chance for like some big stuff to happen. And I don't know. I feel like right now we're just like walking on eggshells. And I'm going to get this out. This episode will go out far before the draft. But I imagine like I'm going to go ahead and drop this episode. And then like within like 30 minutes, it's going to become outdated because something crazy is going to happen. But
something crazy is going to happen.
I don't know, man. If that's the case, I'm going to chop this up and we're going to save segments from this because like...
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, look, it's if you're a Celtics fan, it's a tough day, but look at the bright side. There's a brighter side. And you have to find a way to latch on to the brighter side. At the end of the day, you lost one of your favorite tenured player Celtics of all time. But also at the end of the day, you got better.
Yeah, I mean, people can argue that, but you got 2 first-rounders and you got a guy at a position of need. All of a sudden, your forward position is so much better.
That backcourt.
Like you've got Al.
Front court, excuse me.
You got Al, you got Rob, and you've got Porzingis. You got to figure out what the rotations are going to look like and what those roles are going to be, but
I'll leave that up to the coaches.
You got a lot better there, I think. And you still got some stuff to figure out, obviously, for guards, but just like, we shall see.
We asked Brad to make some moves. He made some moves. Last year, you didn't think you were going to get a guy like Brogdon. He went out and pulled the rabbit out the hat. You get Brogdon. This year, no one thought about a Porzingis. I mentioned him because I thought that the Wizards were going to be on a fire sale. And that, to me, I've been asking for a center for the longest. Is he your bang-bang center? No. What he can do is, though, pull them bang-bang centers up out of that paint. And so that's the key. We got guys that could finish under the rim, but when you got these shot-protecting blockers under the rim, that's tough. So if they switch and if they put a guy that's smaller on Kristaps Porzingis out there, he is pulling the 3. This is going to be so fun to watch. All you got to do is figure out a way to manage and keep him healthy. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest challenge with this. But, yeah, I mean, until we have more news to break down, that's what we've got. I mean, we'll have to delve into some tape on Kristaps Porzingis. Obviously, he's a very gifted player and had a great season last year. And what he brings to the table for the Celtics is really, really good. He's probably the closest to replicating what you get from Al Horford. But with that...
Can I leave this with this?
Sure.
Give me Bruce Brown.
Yeah, and apparently, I sent that to you too. Bruce Brown's in Boston. Could just be visiting family. That's totally fine. He's from Dorchester.
He's from Dorchester.
But the fact that he put it out in his story and it's the day before the draft, who knows, man? I would not hate that at all. But with that, we're going to wrap up for now. And hopefully nothing crazy goes off in the meantime. But we'll see. No promises. Alrighty. This has been another episode of the Vitamin C's podcast, proud part of the CLNS Media Network. And we will catch you next time. And cheers.
Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and make every moment more on America's #1 sportsbook.